Welcome everyone. We're back for another session of Build with Ben, and today we're here to talk about a topic that, well, I'm actually really excited to dive into because one of the things that I think that plagues us a lot as web developers is we have this nagging question of like which backend to use, right? Because it's one thing to build the web app, and then it's another to like have your data persist and how a user is going to store things. And then I was working on my side project recently when it suddenly dawned on me that it was a bit like, well, yes, a backend that scales, etc., for cloud storage and stuff, you'll need that eventually. But especially when you're building out a prototype, that's usually a bit overkill, isn't it? Especially if you're not really familiar with a particular backend. This is something else that you're going to have to do that can often provide a barrier to actually just proving the proof of concept, right? Because if you can get it working, right, the prototype working, then you can discuss like what your requirements are, and then people can, you can do the whole deep rabbit hole on what's the better backend. But on the other hand, like honestly, at the end of the day, like all we really need is a JSON file to really work with. And so I discovered upon recently, so a friend of mine, Jack, happened to be talking, I think this was like a month ago, and he was like, did you know that Chrome had a file system API? And I was like, what? Like, there's a thing that lets the browser access local files in a pretty intuitive way? Like, I gotta check this out. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about Chrome's file system API. And so while I'll be using Vue 3 to go ahead and build out the prototype, honestly, I think a lot of the stuff will transfer regardless of which framework you're using. So I'm excited to do a deep dive on this. All right, let's switch on over to the live screen. Boop. All right, excellent. So what we got here is just as like to level set. So I'll be using Vue as my framework of choice, but not because, again, the concepts that we're addressing particularly today are not Vue specific. I'm going to be using it just Vue to make sure that the rendering and stuff is easy and we deal with like looping through elements, that stuff, piece of cake. But once again, the focus here is on the Chrome file system API. And so as usual, let's see, the repo actually is going to be on GitHub. So it'll be on build with Ben 25. And actually that might be, no, I think I might keep it 25. Anyways, the repo, everything we're doing today will be pushed publicly. So no worries. You'll be able to catch all of this and see the code examples. So everything will be public. And then, yeah, with that, oh yeah, so that's scaffolded with Vite and Vue. So once again, there'll be links inside the README if you want to look more into that. But again, let's dive into the meat of what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so question number one, what is the Chrome file system API? Well, basically at a high level, if you think about it, the browser provides us a lot of high level APIs to do various things, right? Like, and we're used to like manipulating the DOM, we're used to styling stuff. Those are like, if you think about it, those are APIs to build our websites, right? But Chrome, apparently, I can't believe I mean, there's so many things on the web to know about, honestly. They have an API built into it that allows you to basically access your local documents, which I always thought was like something I needed like a node server to run, and then I needed to like learn how the node server worked and then open up a port so that my front end can talk to this. Like apparently you can do all of this directly from the browser. You don't need any of that, which to me was, to say, a relief, because at one point I was thinking about like how do I create like local state like storage so that like that's not limited by literally browser local storage, but like a JSON file that people could carry back and forth. And so the Chrome file system API is the answer to what I was looking for. And so, yeah, I'm excited to talk about it today. Okay, so now we talk about what it is. The question is, when would you use this, right? And so I would say basically anytime you want the user to be able to export something, or more importantly, like you want to create like a local first app. So, one of the things I talk a lot about on my channels is the Obsidian, which is a local first note-taking app. In other words, it just creates all your markdown files locally. There's no cloud syncing built in by default, which is great because then for people who want true ownership and privacy over data, they can do that. And so I've always wondered, how would I go about doing this on my own? And honestly, the Chrome file system API, like this kind of stuff is perfect for that, because again, the user will open their browser, they'll load up their JSON that they locally control, and then they'll save it directly there. And then they can walk away from your app knowing that they have full control over their data, which I think is incredibly awesome. However, though, to kind of wrap up the when question of when you would use this, the thing to know about this, though, is that it is Chrome specific. And when I say Chrome specific, I mean, I believe it's the Chrome engine, the Chromium engine underneath. And so as you can see here, the browser support as of right now, from what I can tell, at least from this article, is basically on Chrome and Edge. So in other words, Mozilla, Safari, you're not going to have this. So one approach as a developer is you might look at this technology and go, well, it's not available on all platforms, therefore I won't use it. And so again, I think this is about learning the trade-offs as developers when we're building things, in that, yes, if right now you're trying to just see if you can get your proof of concept to work, that let's just do an evergreen app that works with Chrome. Like, it might be Chrome based browsers only, but then at least we can prove the concept works. And then when you have like sort of gaining the momentum of people being like, okay, now we have an audience that needs like the various browsers, etc., that's when I think you expand upon the scope to go, okay, maybe now we need like a proper backend, a proper node. Maybe we need to go into Electron, right? But at the beginning, when we're building things, and I wrote a blog post about this last week regarding Yagni, you ain't gonna need it. Added something at the end is you ain't gonna need it for now, or you ain't gonna need it yet. And so it's one of those things where, like, yes, multi-browser support is important, but especially if you have an idea in sort of its nascent stages, you don't need to cover everything at once. You just need to get it up and running. Then you can always iterate, right? It's unless you're saying that, oh, I'm going to publish this and I'm never going to make changes again, then sure, I guess you're going to want to find the one technology. But honestly, look at a lot of the different popular apps and their journey, right? A lot of times they came out and they were like, okay, we only have developers, for example, mobile apps. We have developers only for Android. And then Android gets really popular, but they're like, oh, we have a bunch of people on iOS who want to use it. Then they scale it, right? But I think a lot of times as web developers, I feel like it's very common for us to constantly try to cover all our bases. It needs to be supported everywhere at once, immediately. And if it's not, we're the worst developer in the world. And I think I'd like to get away from that kind of toxic mentality of like, it's either perfect out the door or we shouldn't ship it at all. And so don't get me wrong. Once again, like, I know there is a general, call it, sentiment against creating like Chrome only apps. And I think that if that's your intention, I think certainly the community has its thoughts about it. But again, if you're building your prototype and you're just trying out ideas, I don't think anyone's going to fault you to saying that, hey, by the way, this public beta right now is Chrome only. And then as we gain not only the monetary resources or whatever to build it, then we can go more cross-platform. And I think that's really important as a mindset to keep as a developer. So I would not see this, basically this browser support, as a stopping point. In fact, I think this is a great way to prototype and then move on. Okay, so the why, I guess I talked about this a little bit. So why exactly would we want to learn this, right? Because this is it is a Chrome specific API, but especially for those of us who come from front end development in terms of like just building HTML files, CSS files, that kind of thing, the why as far as this particular API is because I sort of mentioned this earlier, but traditionally when you want to access a user's local files and then you want to do stuff with it, that typically requires you to understand Node.js, so you have to then write like a node server that then reads and writes from directories, files, and that kind of stuff. And that's, while it's still in the JavaScript land, let's be honest, that's a whole nother thing you're gonna have to learn, right? With like different APIs, different syntaxes, and sometimes we just want things to work, especially when we're just trying things out. And so for that reason, the File System Access API basically allows you to dip your toe into this realm of like, okay, what does it take to actually open up a directory? What does it take to write to a file? And then from there, I think then you can, and then if you want to deep dive further and then whatever, then you can always go deeper into it. But in the meantime, this at least will give you the opportunity to, you know, basically get started and yeah, basically equip your knowledge going forward of trying things out in a way that's honestly, from the stuff I played with so far, quite intuitive. So, okay, now let's dive right in, shall we? So where are we at this point? So I've gone ahead and already scaffolded the app for basically Build with Ben session 25. And so here we can see it's basically your standard Vue 3 app, and it basically initialized with Vite. And what I want to say here is that, remember, the key thing with this particular session is that I'm just using this as my way to like stand up an environment quickly and to do some simple things as far as looping through elements and stuff. But this is not Vue heavy specific. So you can extrapolate a lot of stuff we're doing into whatever framework of choice you have, or if you just want to use vanilla.js, that works too. Okay, so let's kick it off, shall we? Let's go and start my local dev environment. And let's go. All right. So, okay, boom, boom. I believe this is at 125% already. Great. So this should be viewable. And then we have this. Close. Okay. So first thing first, let's take a look at the File System Access API. So the first thing we're going to want to do, right? What is the first step most people want to do when they're looking at files? Well, you probably want to, let's start with the simple one. Let's create a brand new file locally for the user. So for example, let's build an app. Gosh, you know what? Let's keep it simple. We're going to stick to the, no, I'm going to go a little bit more advanced. Let me think about this real quick. Okay, we're going to create an anime show tracker to basically track the animes that have been watched versus the animes that haven't been watched. And then we're going to want the user to be able to save their data locally, basically. And so let's just go ahead and start scaffolding that, shall we? So let me actually go ahead and bring this over here so that we can, there you go, that was collapsed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take out the hello world. Let's take out the hello world here. That's fine. And then let's just create a main element here. And then we'll have an H1 for anime show tracker, right? Then there you go, that shows up. And then, okay, we're gonna do two different lists, right? We'll have currently watching, and then we'll say watched. We'll just keep it real simple. There you go. And then in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this part here. Let's see, we'll wrap this part in a div, and then wrap each section. Actually, no, this should be a section. This should be a section as well. Let's scratch those divs. And then we'll just call this anime list. Great. And then anime list. Well, then I think we'll just text align left. I think that'll do it. Yep, great. And the only other thing here is I might just add some padding that is not bunched up. There you go. That's adequate. Perfect. Okay. So as far as the basic thing we're doing, we have this. We want to be able to actually have the user populate what they're actually doing locally. And then more importantly, then when they come back, they can actually load it back up to see the data. So for now, we can basically say, okay, let's create a quick form here. And then once again, I'm just going to do, let's see, we're going to disable the submit. So submit prevent. And then inside of here, we'll say input type text. The placeholder for now, just so we remember what this is for, is the show name. So there you go. This is the show name. And then we will have the status. So this will be a select input. And then anime, our show status is what I'll call it. And inside of here, we'll have two different options. So this will be watching, yeah, it's fine. Watching versus watched. Okay, great. And then we'll keep this even simpler, and then we'll just add show. Okay, great. So 1, 2, 3, and then the last thing we need to do is just make sure we go ahead and set up the data for this so we can actually add this. So we go ahead and import, let's see, ref. So again, const new show is going to be ref here. All we're doing here is just tying together this data to make it reactive. So again, nothing too special here. And then const new show status. This is also just a string. So then I think we can vmodel new show status. And then when we submit it, add show, this will be a method that will then watch, what do we need? We need two different things. We need actually we can just watch anime shows like this, and this will be a ref basically of an array. And so I'll show you, and then we can split it up later. So let's see, GitHub pilot, copilot here, shows, push, let's see, new show.value to show, find status, show status value, good, reset everything after that. Okay, that works for me. Then we can add click to add show. And then finally, just to show that everything's working, we use our pre-trick. Anime shows we don't need dot value. And then this should do the trick. Okay, so we have an empty array here. So here, if I say Naruto, and Naruto has been watched before, you can see, great, status, watched. And then you say bleached. Sorry, not bleach, and then watched, great. And then, for example, right now, I'm actually rewatching Hunter x Hunter, which, honestly, what a delight that show is. Great, watching. Okay, we have this. Now let's just clean this up a little bit, and we'll just also bring in the computed property. So basically, what I'm doing here, in case for those watching this that haven't worked with you before, I'm basically deriving a cached property based on a calculation on a single source of truth. So in other words, the anime shows contains the array of what we want to do, but we might want to say the currently watching shows. It's kind of long, but we're just gonna deal with it. And again, I think in React, this is more similar to like memoizing, but I would say that this is done in actually a rather clean way. So all I have to do is, it's a function that returns a property we want to basically compute based off of. So for me, it's anime shows basically dot value, filter for every single show, whether or not the show dot status is not necessarily currently watching, but just watching. And then here, then we can have a watched shows, which is a computed property. And all this takes is return and then show that it is, actually, you know what? I like completed better than, actually, no, we're just gonna keep it watched. Okay, so, whoops. Oh yeah, I have a double one here. Okay, so to show that this works, we'll just grab a UI li here, and then let me just do the li v for show in, what would I call it? I called it currently watching shows. And then for each of those, I'll just list out the show. Let's see if that works. So again, actually, so I said I was watching Hunter x Hunter. This is watching add show. Ooh, that didn't do anything. Why did that not do anything? Currently watching shows, anime shows.value, console. Actually, do I need to say default on this? Oh, wait, that's not what I want. Whoops. Default. Refresh. Okay, there you go. Watching is the default. So again, if I say Hunter x Hunter, this sets us up. There you go. There you go. Now it's showing up. Hunter x Hunter now shows up. And then similarly, we can basically loop through this down here. And then rather than currently watching show, we just say the watch shows. And so now I can say I watched Naruto. And so this was considered watched. There you go. Perfect. Full Metal Alchemist. Watched. Great. Okay, the only thing I want to clean up real quick is that rather than resetting it to empty, I'm going to do new status value as watching. I think that'll be a little bit cleaner. Okay, perfect. All right, so we have our basic app here. Nothing too complicated. Let's go ahead and commit that. So let me go ahead and add this. So here, great. Commit feature. Oh, plan. Perfect. Actually, let me fix that. Thank you, plan, for the catch here. All right, actually selected. I'm actually curious now if I actually wipe that out. Save. Yeah, that's the thing about the V model. I think even if you have selected written here, at least at this point, you still have to actually define it because I think the V model is overriding it. So we still need this up here, but it's good. I think it's good to be like declarative about the fact that it's selective. So I wonder, okay, there you go. So feature or basic scaffold for anime show tracker. Okay, great. Now, here's the problem though, is that right now users are entering data, but we're losing it, right? Because the moment they refresh, it's gone. But more importantly, you can say, oh, well, we could do local storage. That's an easy way to do it. We could do that, and that's something we could fairly easily implement. But what we want to be able to do, though, is let the user add all this data, right? Use the UI, the app, for what it's good at, which is like letting you see the data, make it easy to structure the data, but then export the data so they can do whatever they want with it. And so once again, you can certainly do things like, I think there's already like a download file. You could do like globs and stuff for those that even know what I'm talking about. But I think it's great that there's this like concept of a file system API. So that's what we're going to do right now. So the way we're going to do this, though, is I'm a fan of like preventing users from using what I think I learned this from the Vue community, but I imagine it's bigger than this. They're called foot guns. In other words, you don't want someone to introduce someone a way for them to actually accidentally, as the foot gun analogy sounds like, you don't want to let them shoot themselves in the foot. So as a result, for example, I don't want users entering their data before they've declared where their data should be stored. So an easy way for us to deal with, for example, is let's wrap this whole thing. I'll wrap it in an article element because it's kind of like its own thing. And then we'll just do a vif, basically has save file, right? Basically, and so we'll make has save file a reactive variable. And for now, we'll just keep it a Boolean. So it is false right now. So if it's false, you'll see that it's hidden. And then what we're going to want to do is if the user actually configures the file, then that is where we're going to have them switch it over. So we have this, VElf is this. Otherwise, we're going to have a different article element. And then we're going to want to say configure save file. And this will be the velse. Save file like this. Save. Okay, configure save file. Great. We see our H2. And then let's just show that we can configure save file. That'll be the function. Whatever. Add save file. Actually, maybe that's what I'll call it. Add save file. Okay, and then to prove that this works, we'll say here. So actually, let me just switch this up a bit. Here are where my methods live. Const add save file. Here's my function. And then from here, all we're going to do is take the has save value and switch it to the opposite. Actually, no, just to true is actually fine. So we'll refresh. If we click it, great, we have our animate tracker. Now, granted, this isn't working yet. So this is we're just scaffolding the basic UI path. Now we are ready to create our first file. So how are we going to do this? Well, let's take a look at the docs. That's always the first place I want to start. Actually, I don't want to. Let me just keep this in one window. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is write the file to the local system. So once again, we're not going to read the docs together, but what I just want to show you where I'm looking so that when you look at the resources later, and if you're doing this yourself, you kind of have a familiarity of where I was looking. So here, they've done a really great job in this particular, I would say this is kind of a blog post, but it's also kind of the docs at the same time. So it's like a hybrid from what I've seen so far. Anyhow, it looks like we have this window that shows save file picker basically built into the Chrome window object, right? So for those who, again, if you're newer to web dev, you'll see that inside of the console, let me bump this up a little bit, the window basically controls a lot of different things, right? And so you'll learn that the window basically contains all the browser APIs you have access to. And basically, we have this thing called show save file picker. So you can see show save file picker, right? And so actually, if I go ahead and show save file picker, show save file picker, wow, that's a tongue twister, and run it, you'll see that it actually opens up the file directory, which is pretty great. And so, okay, now that we know this, we can look. We have a couple of options we can do regarding like what we're actually trying to do. And we can say what kind of stuff we're willing to accept. So you know what? I think we're just going to keep it simple. We're not even going to worry about any options. We're literally just going to keep this as minimal as possible. So to at least scope this a little bit, though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create basically a utility file. So I'm going to call this. So I've been testing out this a bit. So I'm going to have a folder called features, and features are basically reusable pieces of JavaScript that have usually a tie-in directly with the app logic. So it's more than just like a little bit of JavaScript, like a utility library where you might be saying like refactoring something so that you can just reuse like a Lodash utility file. Like this is going to be something hopefully that grows a bit more, like there's more complex functionality in it. At least that's how I'm thinking about it right now. TBD on how it goes. Okay, so since it most likely will have views reactivity in it, I'm just going to use the use prefix, which is also found in the React framework. So basically like for hooks. So we're going to say use file system. That's all we're going to call it. So use file system.js. So inside of here, this is where we're going to take our inspiration from now. All right, so I'm going to bump this over to 1/3. All right. So inside of here, we see that we have the ability to get a new file handle. Okay, that's fine. And then basically return the handle. Okay, seems simple enough. So actually, I'm just gonna already click the copy button here, paste this, but we're gonna change a couple of things. So one, let's start by exporting this. And I'm actually a big fan. I prefer the arrow syntax. I don't know why, but I feel like for me, this just reads a little bit cleaner. So if a get file variable, and then is an async function. Again, we're not going to worry about the options. So it looks like, at least based on this initial example, we have the ability to actually determine like what kind they're creating, right? So actually, I don't even know why I will. Okay, I'll comment this out and then show you how this might work. Okay, we're not going to worry about that options yet, and then we're just going to save. Okay, so if this works as expected, what I can do then is now we're going to import our from feature. Recently, I've had some problems with trying to get the autocomplete in VS Code to work, and I don't know why. It used to complete the path for me really, really nicely, but apparently it's get new file handle. Okay, perfect. So I can complete the stuff inside the file, but for whatever reason, it doesn't read like my directory the way it used to. It's been driving me up a wall, but I can't seem to figure out why. Okay, so get new file handle. And so if this works as anticipated, we're actually just going to disable the has true. And then we're just going to say get new file handle and just run it. And then, oh, there is it returns a promise from what I saw earlier. So if that's the case, let's go ahead and log out what we get. Then do the result, and then whatever the result is, please log the result. That's what we want to do. And then since that is an async function, the get new file handler, then, oh, actually, you know what I'm doing? What am I doing? This is an async function that we can say const save file equals await. This is cleaner. Then we can log save file. This is a cleaner. Hey, Nunchi, how's it going? Good to see you. All right, so we save this. Okay, now that's saved. We will go ahead and we have the console open. We click save. Okay, cool. Look, the file is open. This is good. So let me go ahead and let's say, let me go to my projects. Let's go to build with Ben. And then let's go ahead and create a new folder called data so we can play with stuff in here. And then we're just going to call this a save.json and then save. Okay, so it looks like we got a system handle here, which is great. And yep, okay, we got the file system handle. All right. Now let's see if that actually did anything. Oh, we have the data here. Hey, look at that, save.json. Excellent. Now the next thing I want to do though is to show is what it like. So obviously I could have done that extension with anything, but we're trying to actually get them to configure something very specific that we need. So I think this is where the options comes into play. So we're gonna say JSON files, and then we're gonna accept .json, and now we'll pass these options into the file picker. So now when we refresh and save file, we'll see. Awesome. It already tells me that I'm looking for a .json file. Granted, as a user, I can still go in here and wipe it. But from like a, call it a user experience perspective, it's great that you can basically tell them what you're looking for. So now I can be like a new save, enter. Great. Got the system handle inside of data. New save exists. Perfect. Now, here's the only thing though is, all right. So actually, you know what? Hold on. Don't get ahead of myself. Let's commit this. This is great. We now have the ability to create files locally. Oh, I see a question from Plan here. Where does the description show up? That is a great question. So Plan is referring to this description inside of types. And I don't think it's showing up anywhere. I don't see it anywhere here. So it's kind of interesting that that's part of the API, that the options. So actually, let's go ahead and look at the docs real quick to see if it tells you. Okay, handle, give me my options. Whoa, this is like, oh, this is like, this is the workflow. Okay, never mind. That's a bit much. Okay, so I guess the description maybe is more for us. And it looks like it can take an array of things, by the way. So that's pretty neat. I wonder if there's a way to like, anyways, we won't dive into the API. It's kind of neat that at least you can configure that default. But to Plan's point, I don't think the JSON shows up anywhere. Perhaps it's more for the developer than it is for the user at the moment. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and commit this to say that, okay, we have the ability. Okay, actually, I don't want to save the JSON files, actually. That I don't want to save. So let me go ahead and commit. So feature add ability to create a file locally. Okay, now that's useful, but we're not quite over the hurdle yet because creating a file is one thing. We need to be able to write to it. And so the thing I'm thinking of is now that we've created it, how do we actually like provided some default values, especially when you're doing things like a configuration file, the user saving something, most likely you have some structure that you want to set up with it. So it looks like this API, at least based on what I'm seeing in the docs here, is that it is designed to purely create it, which is fine. That's a very functional programming type of way of doing things, which is just like, I'm going to do the one thing for you, then you do the next thing, which is cool. We can totally like wrap up functions together once we start to figure out our abstractions. That makes sense. So here, okay, here's the next thing we're going to so we know how to create. Now we want to be able to actually save changes to a file. In other words, we want to be able to actually write something to it. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and, oh, I see a question here from Nunchi. I'm not a web dev, but is this similar to when you do href download in HTML? It is a little similar, Nunchi, in that regard. Like, I think that's how most of us have been hacking around this, to be honest, for a long time, is we've been hacking the href download and trying to do like blobs or globs of data to like make, but then I think there are limitations with that, what that can do. And more importantly, I think there's a performance limitation to that. So whereas this file system API is like everything that we wanted as developers to be able to just use the browser to handle like permissions and that kind of stuff, and then just give us a way to interact with the data in a way that is easy for us. And so this is why, as you can see here, the fact that you can basically open that with like a show save file picker, you give users the nuance of what they're doing. Whereas like the href download pattern, I believe automatically defaults to wherever the download folder is. Whereas this, we can actually get like file paths, directories, which means you can save like configurations of where you're gonna write data to. Like there's a whole bunch of basically options that open up as an avenue of this. So, but yeah, I hope that helps to answer your question. Thanks for asking. Okay, so here, the next thing we want to do, now we need to save changes to the disk. So they have this example right here. So let's just copy it over and see what's going on. All right, so we're going to export a const. It's going to be write file. Okay, write file is going to be an async function. Great. What's up, JS Baguette? How's it going? Good to see you. Okay, so we are in here. We have the write file now. And so look, it's actually pretty easy. You create writable, which is easy enough. That makes sense. Create something you can write. You write the contents, and then you close it out. And so for those who have even taken the time to dive into any sort of node file system stuff, you'll know this is actually a very common pattern, which is like you have to open the file, you have to like stream the data into it to write it, and then you have to like close the stream, because if you forget to close the stream, something bad could happen. And so this is what I was talking about in regards to like a learning curve to like, even as developers, we know particularly a lot of web developers are familiar with JavaScript, but that doesn't mean that you'll just immediately pick up on these sort of patterns that exist when it comes to lower level, call it like computational functions like writing files, which you might think would be very simple, but actually, again, there's a level of complexity in it that you'd have to learn about. And so here, this is a great way of exposing you to like just a smidge of that, but you don't really have to worry about too much of it. So this is cool. We have the file handle, and then we have the contents that we're going to write it to. Okay, so if this works the way I think it will, then inside of here, we're going to also go ahead and do a write file, basically function here. But then once we get the handle from the save file, we're going to actually, you know what I'm going to call this save file path, because handle. Okay, I'll just call it a handle. I think that's what they seem to be calling it, file handles, rather than file path. Because I think the path contains a directory, but the handle contains like an object that has a lot of different things. So we can then say, await, oh, look, Copilot either heard me or is starting to get it. Write file, save file handle, JSON.stringify, okay. Then we're going to stringify anime shows. Nope, I don't want that. I want an object. Because I want this file to grow, I don't want it to just purely be one reactive thing. So we'll have an actual anime shows, and then that'll be that, just like this. And so now let's go ahead and test this out. So when we go ahead and click save file, we'll say, okay, let's just start naming it. Alpha, we'll call this one alpha.json. So if we save it, now what we should expect to see if we open up VS Code is file system alpha, check it. We have now actually have the ability to actually basically, I mean, this is so cool. We've created a file and we've added content to it, like just like that, in just a few lines of code that honestly, once you kind of read it over, is really not terribly complex. And then if you wanted to say like, okay, so let's talk about bundling the functions together real quick, right? Because these are two separate, like sort of atomic functional things that do very specific things. And so if you're like, oh, I wanted to create a function that lets you pick a file and then automatically create the default file, right? I don't want to manage this inside of Vue. This should be something that is done as part of the use file system feature. This is actually a decent amount of code here. We have to do two different things. We have to go ahead and save the file, then we have to write the file. What if we have some default values? Like, let's abstract this away. How would that work? Well, first thing first, actually, you know what? Let me just commit this part. I always got to remind myself to commit things, because otherwise I just accidentally end up feature add ability to write a default object to the local file. Okay, this is great. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and refactor this into a single function that we can use that builds upon both of these. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this one at the top since this is going to be more of an abstraction. So this is a const. We'll call it like setup new file. Let's just call it something really simple. And this will be an async file. Async file. Async function. And then this is where we're going to go ahead and do a couple of things where we'll say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to say const file handle, right, is going to be we're going to await get new file handle, run that. And then once we've run that, actually, you know what? No. Let's do it this way. I think we can run it like this, then do the then. Once we get the handle, then this is where we'll say await write file, I believe, with the handle. And then we can actually copy over this basic. And so don't worry if you're thinking what I'm thinking. We're just going to JSON.stringify this piece. And by the way, the JSON.stringify is necessary because you're not, remember, this is now a text file, basically, is what we're doing. And so we don't have, like, there's no such thing as like objects and arrays. It's just characters. So as a result, you want to stringify your JSON object so everything can get retained correctly. So, okay, so like just like that. And then it'll just be an empty array. We're just going to initialize an empty array. That's all we need to do, really. So I think this would work. Use file system has a reserved word. What did I reserve? Unexpected reserved word. What did I do? Nope, didn't like that. Is it handle? Does it not like handle? File handle? Nope, didn't like that either. Let me just cut all of this real quick. Oh, that's fine. I'm a little weirded out. Export const setup new file and async function here. Oh, okay, got it. Hold up. Save file is this. Return save file. Did this work? No, it still doesn't like it. What did I break? Wait, Oh, you know what? Maybe that's the problem. Const save written file. Ryzen. I believe it's a Komodo dragon. Excellent. I love dragons. Okay, then we can return written file. Oh, something feels weird about this. Return save file. Oh, it's save file nope, that can't be it. I don't know why it's not working. You can just return write file too. That's what I thought too. Chain then. Yeah, that's what I thought. Return write file like this, right? And then we said then whatever data is return data. So why is it not liking this? It just, oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, I think it's the way the await was. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Try catch the save file. Yes, okay. So, okay, let's just try this now. So if we say, oh, wait, what am I doing? There's nothing to try because I haven't even done it yet. Okay, so now we can simplify this further if we collapse this into what did I call it again? Use file system. I called it setup new file. That's what I called it. Setup new file. Okay, plan as a question. I will get to that shortly. Okay, so we have our setup new file here. Let me just see if this even works, to be honest. I would be surprised if it did. Const file equals await setup new file, then log file. Save, refresh. Okay, untiled.json, it's saved. Oh, okay, that did work. Okay, cool. So that refactoring did work. So you can see here, I click save. All I needed to do was basically give it the name, new name, and then new name now contains the bit here. Now to plan's point though, why are we using the then? That is a great question, actually. I think I was afraid this wouldn't fire, but actually now that I think about it. So we said file handle is this, right? Then we could say const written. Actually, does write file even return anything? I don't. Await writable close. Spread your logic. Okay, const. Let's see. Written. I'm just gonna call it. I don't know if it's even the file right now actually. So then we can then say wait, just like that. Then that. Then we can return written file. That should work. Refresh. Yeah, I think you were right. All right, untitled 2. I think I just got caught up. Okay, untitled 2. All right, great. I think I just got I think in my head somehow I got caught up in like, oh, if I run the await here, does the function even anyways? Disregard. Okay, this is what we're looking for. Nice and simple. We have the file handle here, but more importantly though, I don't think okay, this is where I would say I think the suggestion for try catch is correct in that we would run this, and if it works, then we say run a successfully created file. Else, actually, you know what though? Let's just do a log. Actually, that will probably be the easiest. Log successfully created file, and then otherwise we would have an error, unable to create file. Catch, yeah, that's true. Catch error. And then we have the error here. Great. Just like that. Save. Refresh. Let's save the file. Let's call this beta. Beta. Oh, here you go. Successfully created a file that ran. Beta went through. Excellent. All right. So, yes. Okay. So we have a question here from Radio Signal. So this notation that I'm currently using regarding the setup file. Yeah, let's do a quick review on this. So actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and actually, do I even need this constant? I might though. I think this breaks everything if I. Oh no, it's good. I think try. Let me just make sure something real quick before we get to the question. Oh yeah, that did work. Okay, that's cleaner because we don't need to save it to a variable. Okay. So now that I have this, let me go ahead and commit this, and I'm going to answer Radio Signal's question. So here, all of this data is not actually. Let me double check something real quick. Yes, we did that, and then we simplified this into one thing. Oh, we don't need to log the file. That is not a thing. So this it needs to be deleted. Great. Bumped up the zoom too much. Okay. Now we have this and this. Okay. Commit feature, or this is not a feature. This is a refactor. And then we simplified creating config file function. Okay. So, all right. So from Radio Signal here, the question here is the system that the syntax I'm using inside of use file system regarding this piece right here. So at a high level, basically what's happening is that this is, so especially for those who haven't been working with like JavaScript modules a lot, think of it this way, is that when you're working with libraries, you want the ability to actually import things, right? And so the way you notate that inside of a file is the export. And so this is how we're exporting the different constants. And so what I'm doing here is I'm basically naming the constant setup new file. And then here is where I'm using the arrow function instead. So the equivalent to this, just to make sure we're on the same page here, is we could have done it this way, where we export a function, async function, and then just like this. So let me go ahead and actually just cut this real quick so it's easy to see. These two lines here are identical. So in other words, it just flips it so that the arrow function here is a syntactic sugar that people have kind of been getting used to within programming. From what I think that's a lot of the motivation. There are some things, advantages as far as like scope and like variable context, variable scoping that gets impacted by this. But as far as like basic understanding, just know that all I've done is I've done the same thing where I've created a variable called setup new file, and then I've made it a function that's async. That's all that's happening. So hope that helps to answer your question. If you need any additional clarification, let me know. Okay, so I see here in the chat from Atmophil. Oh, I should return my written file. Oh, that's what I was thinking too, actually. So let me just return. No, that won't work. All right, so const written file. So I should return it. Okay, That's what I was wondering too, but I kept getting undefined at the end of it. So I kind of assumed it wasn't anything interesting. So save alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Yeah, it's weird. Oh, return written file. What is logging that still? Is my files? Oh, the thing is still here. All right, that's fine. It's weird. I would have expected that to have undefined, but that's okay. I'm happy to return it. I think that's totally cool. That's fair. The function returns something. Okay. Refactor, return written file in function. Okay, great. Okay, now we've gone through probably the two hardest steps, I would say, is that now we've created the file and we're able to write things to it. So the only other thing actually is that if the file, actually, you know what though? Oh, okay. Actually, perfect timing. Question here from Plan. What happens if I don't save it as a JSON file in the dialog? Let's find out. And so for this question, the origin for this of why Plan is asking this question is because inside of here, we're actually being very specific about the type. As you can see here, what types are we passing it? And then basically, what are we willing to accept? So great question. So now if I go ahead and save the file, but this time we'll do untitled.txt and we'll save. It looks like nothing actually changes. The reason I think that this is the case is because I'm noticing that the types can accept an array of, actually, no, I tried. I don't know why there's no error being thrown. But yeah, actually, because what happens if what if I gave multiple types? Like I did this and I also wanted like text files. Like, is it just always gonna pick the first one? Seems like it. So if I flip it, let's go ahead and switch that over. And then we'll refresh just to make sure. Yeah. So interesting. It takes the first one, although my guess is this is defined here. So if I refresh this, save, .json exists. So then if this is an array, again, I'm just going to toy around to see how intuitive the API is. Then, yep, it takes the first one. Again, it's odd because, like, to Plan's point, wouldn't you think you would build in like a, hey, please save this as a .json? But then again, I don't actually know if I've seen that pattern anywhere in the built-in browser file picker. Like, even if like, for example, if you're uploading an image, no, wait. We've seen the ability to say, oh, well, no. What I've seen before is that it'll try to encourage you to pick certain things. But then if you pick the wrong thing, then I think something else does the validation. I don't know. Maybe this will be more relevant when we're reading the file. So Plan, that is a great question. I don't know. We'll have to see. In the meantime, let me just go ahead and check out all my changes. Everything reverts. Excellent. Okay, the final piece we're going to need to go into for this, at least proving that we've had this actually. More importantly, right now, written file is actually being returned as, I don't know why it's being returned as a undefined. Like once you saved it, right? You've closed it and you wrote the contents to the disk. I would think that like the await would then, actually get the stuff. So you can suggest directories. Yeah, I'm not worried about that right now. Okay, so at least with the bare minimum, right? Let's just say for now, let's assume that maybe if there's an error or something, it does. So I'll call this a status of success because the reason why I want this, and we'll see shortly, is the file handle written file. Sure. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Anyways, and then otherwise we will return status error. Okay. The reason why I want this is because if we save, once again, alpha, beta, gamma, delta. I actually don't know my Greek alphabet. Let's do Orion. So Orion was sent. Wait. I expected an object to print. Why did it not print anything? Test.json. Nope, nothing. Await, setup new file. Setup new files here. We try this. If it's successful, do this, successfully create file, then return this object. No, did I do something wrong? Status success, file handle written file. Yes, this should totally work. Hard refresh. Bum, 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 bum. Zeta. There we go. Okay, something got cached funny in the hot module reloading. Okay, we have our success. That's all we need. Because basically all we're gonna do is if file.status equals to success, then we're basically gonna say switch the UI. So once again, we'll configure the file, test.json, replace test.json. Excellent, now we're good. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure we add that as a feature. And then I'm gonna have to clear all that data. Feature, add ability to switch UI when successfully configuring local file. Great. All right, so let me just clean everything up. All right, so did I do that correctly? I did not. That's fine. I'm just gonna wipe it out manually real quick. Delete. There we go. Okay. Excellent. So now that we have this, we want the ability to then actually, well, next step is let's actually keep adding stuff to the file. I totally forgot. That's the other thing we got to do. So let's create our file. And this time we're going to do gamma. Now that we have this, we want the ability to say that when the user clicks add show, it'll actually update the set values. Now we need to learn how to read a file. That's the next piece. Actually, no, we don't need to read the file. We just need to keep writing. What am I talking about? Okay, so we have the add show here. Add show value push, which is fine. New value here. Great. So that's the reset. So here, we're going to reset the value. Here is we're going to update reactive data. But once we've done that, this is where we're going to want to basically say, hey, save data to the file. So the way I think it would be easiest to do this is we would say, okay, let's do the simplest version of this, which is we would then, how do we do this? Oh, okay. Nope, I lost it for a second. Okay, it's fine. The easiest way to do this for now is to then say we're going to take the, actually no, we have two different things we need to solve. Because, okay, here's the problem. Right now, we have this file handle here that's not actually being used. So actually, you know what? I'm actually just going to return the file handle. And again, we'll return the written handle here in case it's useful. But the file handle should actually be something that we can react to. So I'm going to import ref from... Oh, I don't know if this is going to work. We're just going to have to try it. Ref around this. Oh man, I don't know if this is gonna work. Actually, I don't need to make it a reactive variable just yet. I think I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay. No. Let's just return the, sorry, not written handle, written file. The reason why I'm saying this is because we need the file handle when we're saving stuff. So in other words, if I do delta, we should look at the log. Oh, I didn't log it out, but it's fine. So then we can say log How am I gonna await setup new file. Huh. How am I gonna do this? Okay, so the problem is I need to be able to set, oh, I know how. Nope, I lost it. Okay. When we have the file status, we should be able to then log out the file handle. All right, this is what we should do. Because what we need to be able to do here is, again, alpha. There we go, file system handle. Now the thing is that this is something we should be able to refer to later on. So I would say, all right, let's just test it out. So file user file is going to be a ref of undefined for now. And then let's see if this works. We'll say user file dot value is going to be equal to file dot file handle. Okay, and if this works the way I hope it will, we can check this real quick. Just do a pre on user file, save. Nothing should show up right now, which is fine. We add the save file, and then we say alpha beta. Okay, so we do get the object reference here, which is good because now that we have the user file, this will let us reuse it in other places. In other words, this is where I need this piece where we can say await. And this is where we need the write file from. Because now we're going to actually write the file from the handle that we've saved as user file. Right here, actually, this is out of alphabetical order. It's going to annoy me later. Okay, there. And in fact, I'm just going to do this real quick because this is our reactive data. And then since I'm organizing things real quick, compute it properties. Great. And then wait, write file. And now that we have the right file, we can do the user file.value, and then we can JSON.stringify. Yes, that should do it. It was not happy. Why is it not happy? Refresh. No. Save data to the file. Does it not like this? Dot value. Okay, so it doesn't like the fact that I'm using a wait here. Okay, const update file save like this. Nope, doesn't like it. Something broke. What did I break? I broke something. Constant update file at show, not AC. Oh, good call. I think that might be it. Yep. Thank you, thank you. There's a planet atom fill here, or atmo fill for the win here. Okay, great. So I don't even need to declare the variable. Great. Wonderful. Okay, now we save that. Now, if this works as anticipated, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Okay, so epsilon has this now. So now if I say Naruto, and I say that I've watched it and add it, now if we're lucky, hey, it's working. So now we can say hunter x hunter is currently watching, add show. There you go. JSON is being populated as we go through, and it's happening with just a few lines of code. This is great. Okay, actually, though, this is weirding me out a little bit. Why is it looking like that, UL? Oh, silly me. I did not put in UL around it. There you go. Now it's consistent. Great. This is awesome. Now let's go ahead and commit this. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Feature user can add data that saves locally. Okay. So now the user very naturally, as they're working through the app, is making changes and writing to the file, which is great. Okay, so refresh. Okay, boom, change is gone. Now, problem number, we've created the file, we've written the file, we know how to save changes. Now, we need to read said file. That is the next problem we need to solve. So now that we've been able to read the file, how do we do that? Let's see. Okay, so you have the file handle itself, and then you can get said file. Okay, fine. Okay. Interesting. So basically we can open the file picker and let the user pick the file to read. Okay, that seems easy enough. So again, we're just gonna keep our APIs basically the way we would prefer to do it. So we're gonna keep this inside of a reusable module. And so where is it? So you have write file. Actually, let me collapse them. This is setup file. This is get file. This is write file. So this is completely not alphabetical at this point. So for now, I'm not going to worry too much about it. But const, okay, so we're going to read file. That's what we're going to want to do. But it's going to be an async operation where we get the file handle because we're going to pass it in directly. And then, oh, wait, we're not going to pass in the file handle because we don't know what the file handle is. That's the whole point of picking choose file. So actually, we need to say pick file. Choose file. I'm gonna say choose file. I like choose file better. So there's a choose file function, and then inside of here is where we'll copy out what they're saying is file handle is equal to await window.show open file picker, and then after that return file handle. Okay, it did not like that. Const that. Okay, there you go. That should destructure what comes back. All right, let's see if this works. So we're gonna have a choose file like this. That'll be exported from here. And then what we need on our app is we can add a save file, or actually, you know what? Now I realize adding a save file is not even correct. It's called create save file. So that's creating one, but we need a different one for use existing. Oh, what am I talking about? Choose save file. So say upload file. No, I don't like upload. Use existing data. Let's keep it simple. Okay, use existing data, save file. Let's flip that around UI wise. And then this is gonna, I need the spacing a little bit. So once again, just to be, once again, we're just prototyping. So margin right 10 pixels should be adequate. Yep, great. Just a little bit of spacing. Okay, so Now that we have this, we need to be able to choose said file. So AA. So let's do our next method here. Const choose save file. It's going to be an async function because we're going to be utilizing our the file system API, which is almost always async, I think, at this point. So const file is await choose file. That's correct. This is actually all not. Actually, let's comment that out real quick. That might be useful later. But then let's just log the file. Actually, I just want to see if this even works. So we're going to use existing data. And then here now we know epsilon has something. In fact, we can even see it here in the preview. So if we open it, we should see, hey, we have a file system. We get the actual handle, which is good because we've chosen the file. Now that we've chosen the file though, we need to actually read said file. So this is where like the steps come in. And so we can see here, you can actually get the file handle to actually then do, to get file, you can get the file properties. So this is the file. Okay, so actually, hold on. Actually, this is a file handle. So then const file equals await file handle.get file. Const file content equals await file.text. Let's see if this even works. Await file contents like this. So then if we open this up and then we go epsilon, hey, look at that. We have our what is important, though, this is not an array, this is a string. So if we want to make this a proper, object, we actually want to probably do this. So now if I save this, because I'm going to parse the JSON that we stringified, and then we use existing data for epsilon, there you go. You can see now we actually have a proper array, goes through and has everything. And now we can take the file contents and then set this to anime shows. So anime shows dot value is going to be equal to file contents. I think that's actually all I need to do. So I can refresh. Oh man, if this works, I'm so excited. Okay. Oh, I forgot. I am going to need the thing I deleted. And then actually we can just assume this part here. Delete, save. Use existing data, choose epsilon. It works! Ha! Yes! Ho ho ho! I see Dave in the chat. What's up, Dave? Good to see you. Jacob here with a follow-up callback. Love it. But check it. That works. We now have the ability to save file, save to a local file and create, and then have the user re-import that. And so just in this, I don't think it gets any easier when it comes to creating a local first app. Sorry, an app that's focused on local first storage and proper data privacy. I won't go. I usually get on a soapbox with that one, but I won't because I think I've said it. I've talked about it a little bit already in the chat, but okay, this is very, very exciting because now we can basically keep using this, right? So now if as a user, I just come in and I'm like, okay, I watched this and I can do that, although it didn't like that. So that's actually not a good error. Cannot read properties undefined create writable. Let's see what happens. If we refresh, use existing data, epsilon. Yeah, ooh, did not like that. Okay, something. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and actually first save this feature. User can load data into the app. That worked. Oh, wait. I know why. When you choose the file, we need to fix something. It's not enough to just choose the file. You need to actually update the file handle because that's where it's writing to. So therefore, the user file actually needs to be updated when we choose the file. So what we actually probably want to do here is not even file handle. We're saying user file.value is equal to this. And then we can reutilize user file.value get file this save. Okay, that should now work because we have epsilon, we load it. Great. So now we've made the file handle reactive that other parts of the app can use. And you can certainly do this, by the way, if you're using like a global store. We could totally do that too. But once again, this is not about doing things the Vue way. In fact, most of this, I'm hoping for the people watching, even if you're not using Vue, this should be very, very JavaScript friendly. As for whatever you're using, just different concepts to make things easy. Now if I add bleach to watched, add show. Okay, interesting. Here is a prompt that you might recognize, but this is something that I think we actually have time for, so we're gonna work with this today. You actually need to be able to request write permissions, and this is what I love about the browser handling this, is because they can do all the permission stuff. Once I get the permissions, I want to be able to I just want to let the app do its thing. So now I can actually say, yes, I want to make changes. So now bleach, one piece is currently in the watching category. Great. So if we refresh this, everything's gone. But if we import epsilon, everything still shows up. This is wonderful. Excellent. So actually, let's actually add this fix real quick. Fix user can write data to an existing file. That's basically what we fixed because it was not reactive originally. Okay, so we've done this. We are making great time, which honestly says a lot about the API and more importantly, the documentation, right? That they were able to provide very clean examples of things that people commonly want to do and give their take on what that might look like. So obviously they're using pure vanilla JavaScript to add event handlers, that kind of stuff. Again, I'm using Vue to abstract some of that away to make things a little bit faster. But otherwise, everything's been really, really clean. So that's really exciting. Now, here's the problem though that I want to solve, which is that right now, when we're looking at this, we're noticing that even if for whatever reason the app crashes and you refresh, it's kind of annoying that we're going to have to, choose the file every single time, because most likely once you have a user has chosen a local directory, they're not really looking to change that up. And if they want to, we can totally configure an area where they want to update that. But at least at the bare minimum to get started, once they've chosen one, even if the app if for whatever reason, like the settings, like they close their browser or whatever, why not have them just load up the existing file? They shouldn't have to choose it every single time. That's the problem I'd like to try and solve next within the next basically 10 minutes or so. So fingers crossed. Let's see how far we go. I see new dev in the chat. Hello, hello. Okay, let's think this through. First thing first, it looks like they have one specifically here. So storing file handles or directory handles in IndexedDB. Now, this is kind of interesting to me because my first thought, if you ask me honestly, was why couldn't we just make this a local storage thing? And I wonder if it has to do with the data type, because they're talking about serialization here, which again, I only know like very high level surface on what that means. But it would have, you would think local storage would make the most sense. But perhaps the reason why they're using IndexedDB is because here, if you're looking at it, they're talking about storing state and remembering which file they were working on. Whereas local storage, I think, has the downside of making everything I think it stringifies everything. So that is probably why that doesn't work. So if we're looking at this code example, though, this is a little bit more complicated. So we can see here that, let's try to break it down a little bit. We can ignore everything up top here and kind of come into the file. Okay, it's long because there's two different examples. This is the example we care about, where it's saying we get a file handle, which is fine. Once we get said file, if it exists, retrieve it. And so text content from IndexedDB, and then await set file. Oh, okay, sorry. This finishes. Okay, you know what? We're trying this the next 10 minutes, so let's just break it down together. So I'm gonna copy all this. And okay, a couple things that it's doing though. So if you haven't worked with IndexedDB before, for me, IndexedDB is a little bit verbose, and honestly, I don't have the time to cover it in the 10 minutes we have. But just basically know that it's a database that is built into the browser that has kind of a verbose API from my experience. So there is a library here that apparently makes it a lot easier to work with, where it feels like you're sort of just calling a function and setting a key and getting the value, rather than a lot of the hoops and things that you need to jump through for IndexedDB. So, yep, I think we're just going to actually follow their lead here, and we're just going to actually install IDB keyval so that we just don't even have to deal with the IndexedDB API itself. So now that we have this, now we can copy this example and hopefully we can get something to work. So first thing first, 1/3 here. All right. So let's just paste this real quick to see what we have. We have the ability to get set stuff. Okay, so what I actually want to do is I want to check this out first. Oh, unpackage.com. Oh, I didn't even have to install it. Oh, that's great. In that case, I'm not even gonna install it. Great. All right, for now, let's just pull it from here, get set. The reason why I want to see if this even works first is we want to see something real quick. So on mounted, I'm going to do a lifecycle hook real quick. And we're basically going to say, we're going to set a, let's just say stream, a key of stream. Sorry. So I'll say, actually, no, I'll say episode 25. And then this will be an object that I'm just going to say topic, file system, Chrome file system API. Save. And let's see if this does anything. So if we refresh, I don't see any issues in here in the logs. If we go to the application and we go into IndexedDB, we'll see that we have an index here for key value store. Refresh. Inside a key value store. Okay, episode 25, the value is this. Okay, so now to test this out just a little further. Oh man, if it's this easy, that's great. I'm gonna love this library because again, I did not love working with the IndexedDB naturally, or like out of the box. So we save. So we can just log what we get from this actually. So get. Oh, do I need to await this? Const data equals await get episode 25, then log data. I'm playing around with patterns that I'm guessing is how. Oh, I did not like that. Why did I not like that? Cannot as it is undefined. Oh, okay. Oh, wait. This is async. Okay, that worked. I was like, async always bites me in the butt. Okay, great. That's okay, cool. We have our object here. All right, it serializes the data. Okay, that was actually very, very easy. I am very excited. I will definitely be playing more with that. So actually, you know what? I'm going to drop this package in the resources. IDB key val. That was a very that is, oh, wait, hold up. I lost the chat. Sorry, hang on. Twitch TV, but okay. Okay, great. I'm back. Oh, sorry. I'm back on the chat so I can see everyone's chat. Okay, I'm really excited because, this will be very cool. So this means to me now, if we go to our use file system, we have the ability to basically, how would I do this? Oh, I don't know if this, no, this is low. No, it's fine actually. We can, how are we going to do this? Okay, we can import the get set. I'm fine with this. If we choose the file, we need to actually do something though. We need to actually, no. Wait, I think I'm in the wrong place. We need to, okay. I was in the right place originally. I'm actually abstracting this too far. Okay, what we're trying to do is when everything is mounted, right? So let's, honestly, I'm gonna put we'll just put the lifecycle stuff down here. Predicted that apparently. Okay, on mounted. Okay, we're not gonna get hit again with this. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the example they had actually real quick because that is, oh no, did I lose the docs? Hold up. Here. All right, we got this. I think now that I'm confident in the IndexedDB example, that this should be a lot easier than I think. We're basically saying we're going to try to get a directory. If the directory exists, get the file. If file exists, then great. Okay, so here we go. Const local save file equals await. I'm going to use the get to say the save file, right? And this will be a key, basically, that corresponds if this thing exists, right? So if local file save exists, this is great. What we're going to do then is we're going to basically take the, let's see, what is it? It's saying if it's undefined, if true, retrieve file handle from IndexedDB, then return, then it will, otherwise it will open a file picker, set the file, and then they store the file. Okay, that's not quite what I want. Okay, if local file exists, Then we'll say user file.value is equal to local save file. And then we'll switch to the UI. Otherwise, we will then say, actually, no, that's it. That's all we need to do. Okay, so now, if this works the way I think it does, we'll refresh, nothing will happen. This makes sense because when we choose the file, this is where we need to change it. So when we choose the file, we've set the file up here, but then we need to also set, again, there's gonna be things we would need to do on a production app to like make sure we do constants and stuff to make sure everything's connected and tracked correctly. But in the meantime, for like making it work, in the time we have left, we need to save the file with user.value, and we set that locally. So, okay, fingers crossed this works. All right, here we go. We have our app. I'm gonna bring over my application here. Let's just refresh. Now we're gonna use existing data and we're gonna open up Epsilon. All right, so now that Epsilon's been loaded, we should see now that the data may be stale. So it's fine, let's go ahead and refresh it here. Okay, we have a save file with the file system handle. This is great. Now, here's the moment of truth. When we refresh, okay, not terrible. It kind of did what I want because we've just set the user local value to save file, but this is, okay, we're gonna need to totally make this a reusable thing, but it's fine. For now, we have that. Then we await user, okay. Then we get the contents, JSON.parse. Then we set this to true. Yeah, this will totally need to be a reusable thing, but that's totally fine. Okay, so this, yeah, okay, let me, request not, okay. Let's set Epsilon. Epsilon works. So if we go inside of the application, actually, let me clear my errors. Save file is true. We have the thing and we can refresh this. This is good. Now, when we refresh, did not like it. Uncaught promise. The request is not allowed by the agent or platform in the current context. Why? Oh, I feel like we're so close. Let me see. Did the docs say something? Once we store it, pre1.text content. Oh, that's modifying the HTML. We already did this. Set. Oh, wait, await set. Is that why? Oh, unlikely, but that's fine. Await set, await get. I seriously doubt that's the reason it's breaking, but just to be clear, let's go ahead and delete set item, delete item, refresh, do gamma didn't, no, let's do epsilon instead. Epsilon's great. Refresh, there's our file system handle. Now, if I refresh, it's gonna break because I wonder if it's a permissions thing. Yeah. Catch alert. Oh, permissions are not persistent. I was right. So, in the text editor, I verify a verify permission check. If required, make the request. Okay, if read write, using write permission with the read request, I reduce the number of permission prompts. When the user prompts the file, it grants both to it and writes to it. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay, here you go. There's this request query permission. Since permission is not persistent, you could verify whether they've done it using query permissions. If they haven't used request permissions to re-request it, the same works for the file and the directory handles. So, okay. We're gonna, as usual, I find myself pushing the boundaries, but it's fine. We get the local file unmounted, but then here, if they're saying what I think they're saying, users file.value, they're saying use the query permission dot, okay, how about request permission to request it? Let's just do that. Okay, just like that. So we save it, and then if I refresh, the request is not allowed user file.value.query permission. Let's comment that out. Looks like I may get stuck on this one this time. User file, refresh. Yep, rats. I wonder, nope. Okay, so for the sake of having a proper closeout and everything, I think I'm gonna save this honestly for another session because I think this is actually really important. So at the bare minimum, we've gotten closer from a prototyping perspective. So you know what I'm gonna do though? Here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna say this whole thing, here, we'll do this as a to-do, fix loading permissions, fix loading file from IndexedDB. This will now comment everything out. Actually, we just comment the whole thing out. This is not working. And then this is not working too. To do, update this set file value to IndexedDB. Okay, and then we can go ahead and comment this out. So all I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna commit this for the sake of like showing the learning journey in this. So I'm just gonna call this a docs add scaffold for IndexedDB integration for persistent state. Okay, great. All right, with that, let's switch on over. Back to final thoughts. With that, we've actually done quite a bit in this session. We've learned about what the Chrome File System API is, and we've actually seen how easy it is to actually work with in terms of like basically opening a file, writing to it, and then letting the user basically hold their own data. And that to me is a huge win from particularly a prototyping perspective, because, you know, as I sort of talked about at the beginning of this video, it can be a lot to be like, well, I got to integrate with like a, you know, third-party database, and I got to learn how to do all that stuff. And then I have to make sure I have to do the free plan or whatever. Local files, that is basically free data space. It's easy for people to use it. They own their own data. You don't even have to worry about authentication and all that stuff. Very, very great for that sort of basically prototype concepts. And more importantly, if your app is going to support allowing your users to own their own data at its fullest extent, I think that's about as good as it gets. So thanks so much, Kayushi Dev, Radio Signal, for the words of support. I really appreciate it. It helps, definitely encourages me to keep doing things like this. So glad you all found this helpful. If you want to follow the schedule or figure out when I'm going on stream, be sure to check out the schedule at www.benkozan.io/schedule. And then basically I'll try to have the topics in there up to date. And then there's even a Google Calendar that you can subscribe to, so that in case you want to get alerts and you want to come here, interact live, ask questions, this is the time to do it. But on the other hand, don't worry if you're not able to make a session. All of these basically I have queued to actually go on YouTube basically the following week, so that I do some editing just to cut stuff down a little bit and then provide some show notes. But then otherwise, yeah, you can always catch the recording on YouTube as well. If you have any questions or feedback on the video or want to like explore something different, be sure to add a comment below. I definitely try to read all of them and try to respond as much as I can. And so really appreciate everyone for hanging out today. It's been an absolute blast. I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.